Ask everybody if they would prepare the call to order our City Council of a Whole retreat. Ask everyone if you would silence your phones and other things as we prepare to uh, start. I'd like to start out by giving a welcome. Um, I'd like to welcome you to the Rocky Mount City Council Annual Retreat. Each year, the City Council strive to hold a retreat so leaders and public servants and delegates to discuss and define priorities to improve the lives of all Rocky Mount citizens. I'd like to welcome those of you that are here, those that are viewing by technology, our city council, our mayor and staff, welcome you here. This year, the priorities include improving housing conditions for our citizens, implementing the most effective way to put policy in place to promote affordable housing for every neighborhood and community in Rocky Mount. As a part of these initiatives, the retreat will provide an opportunity to explore community land trust, housing stabilization, and short and long-term incentives. The city will develop strategies for these initiatives to promote economic development and growth for the entire city. This year, two facilitators for this important meeting, Dr. Valerie Batts, which with Visions Inc. will be participating virtually. Dr. Angie Ayrton with Involve Consulting is on site. City Manager Rochelle Small-Tony will give you background information on both at this time.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of City Council, as well as our delegation representing the boards and commissions, as well as the viewing public and those who are present. To help ensure the City Council retreat is highly effective, efficient, and productive, we have engaged two co-facilitators. Dr. Valerie Batts is participating virtually, and Dr. Angie Arrington is here in person. Together, these two facilitators will help lead us through a successful retreat with a focus on achieving the retreat goals of improving housing conditions of our citizens and implementing the most effective way to put policies in place to promote affordable housing for every neighborhood and community in Rocky Mount. First, I would like to introduce Dr. Valerie Batts, who will serve as the lead facilitator. Dr. Valerie Batts is a clinical psychologist who has been providing consultation, technical assistance, and executive coaching to organizations and communities since 1984. She helps individuals and systems address barriers to implementing equity and inclusion in all aspects of the organization. Dr. Batts is known for her compassionate yet action-oriented approach to enhancing effective leadership development, which is a key element in systems changes. Her experience in both the for-profit and not-for-profit sector gives her unique insight into how senior executives can impact change both internally and within the communities in which they serve. Valerie grew up in Rocky Mount. She and several of her colleagues at Visions have supported community change efforts in the city, as well as in Nash and Edgecombe County over the years. Dr. Batts will set the tone for the facilitation process. She will present guidelines for effective and inclusive dialogue. She serves as a subject matter expert on national affordable housing. Further, Dr. Batts will lead the council discussion and instruction sessions on Thursday and Friday afternoons. Dr. Batts will interject and help keep us on topic throughout the discussions. She will capture detailed written notes, summaries, actions, and results for the final report to me and ultimately to City Council. Dr. Batts will collaborate with Dr. Angie Arrington to help ensure a streamlined communication and thorough note-taking process. Now I will introduce Dr. Angie Arrington, co-facilitator. Dr. Angie, as she is affectionately known, is a management consultant who specializes in leadership and organization effectiveness, executive and management coaching, process improvement, and performance management, as well as professional development and training. She has over 30 years of professional and bootstrapping experience in leadership, operations, strategic planning, entrepreneurship, and management, and has served hundreds of clients. Dr. Angie blends her visionary, entrepreneurial, and corporate experiences to serve up the best recipes for success. Through her company, Evolve Consulting LLC, Dr. Angie helps leaders improve in performance so that they can evolve. She inspires excellence through providing effective solutions to help individuals and teams work smarter, perform faster, and lead better. Dr. Angie is passionate about her integrated consulting, training, and coaching methodologies that achieve results. Her formula for success is people plus passion equals performance. Excellence. Although she was primarily reared in Washington, D.C., Dr. Angie attended the original Benvenue Elementary School. As co-facilitator, she will help reinforce the tone of our facilitation process and handle any ad hoc activities that may come up in the room. Dr. Angie will capture summary actions from each presenter and provide a verbal summary of actions after each presentation. She too will interject and help keep us on topic throughout the retreat. Dr. Angie will handle real-time logistics within the room in coordination with staff as needed. She will work closely with Dr. Batts to help ensure streamlined communication and thorough note-taking. Lastly, Dr. Angie will provide a high-level written summary of each presentation by Friday morning for Thursday's session, and by the end of the day, Friday, for Friday's sessions. In addition, she will help Dr. Batts monitor the virtual chat and track out-of-scope topics. Thanks to the two of you for agreeing to serve as our facilitators this year. At this time, I will turn the agenda over to our virtual facilitator, Dr. Val Batts.
Thank you, Rochelle. Can everyone hear me? Yes, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a delight to be here with you all. And I have to say, I'm particularly excited this afternoon that this is Rocky Mountain, growing up here in the 50s. Can you hear me? Growing up here in the 50s, I don't know that I would have dreamed that we would be sitting in this circle the way that we are now today. So I just hope you all can feel a little bit of pride I feel when I look around this space and see you as the leaders of the town in which I was born and raised. As I do this work around the world, I often think about at the roots of Rocky Mountain. So I'm really delighted to be part of this journey to help clarify and to define and clarify where we're going to go on this issue of housing in the city. This, of course, is not unique, as you all know, and I'm excited to learn about Asheville too. This is a challenge for us in historically excluded communities across the United States. And this is going to be an exciting journey, and it begins with this retreat where we're all learning, and I'm learning about particular challenges for you in Rocky Mountain. As Visions does this work around the country, we start our work by inviting people to try on, which is the first guideline. If you switch to my slides, there's a guideline that says try on. And we're going to invite you as we go through this process to try on listening to each other, listening to yourself, listening to all the important information you're going to be gathering. And often when we are taking in information, new information, sometimes our first impulse is to reject it if it doesn't fit with our own perspective. So we're going to be inviting you to use these guidelines. I'm not going to talk about all of them today. We'll talk about some of them tomorrow. And also, but the try-on guideline, I think, is critical for this whole event. It's also something that leaders need to do. We often, as leaders, want to problem solve without really hearing all of the nuances of the problem. So this retreat is structured to share many nuances of the issues related to housing. And it also is structured to begin to invite you all to know what are the barriers and challenges that we have as a council and as a city to implement all of these various options. So try on is a really, really important guideline. And Angie and I will be noticing how you're doing with that. The next one that I want to just reference is the idea that it's okay to disagree. In community settings and in any organization I've worked in, everybody thinks the same way. And often in a festive system, it's not okay to disagree. What we want to invite is that people can state their disagreements and we can come to understand each other's difference and then think about problem solving. As we do that, we don't think it's good to blame, shame, or attack yourself or others. We all come to this work from our own experiences, and there are multiple truths and more than one right. And often, again, our training might be that it has to be either my way or your way. This guideline invites you to see that we can have different perspectives and we can still respect each other. So that's what we mean by it's not okay to blame, shame, or attack yourself or others. As you listen over these next few days, you may hear some things that challenge you, and you think, oh man, how could I have believed X about housing? So we want you to notice that if you learn new information, that's a good thing, and that you don't need to feel bad about what you didn't know. The question is, what am I learning, and how do I want to think about it? The next guideline I just want to reference is this idea of self-focus. And again, as leaders, we're often focused on how to solve other people's problems or how to fix policy or how to change practices. Sometimes we don't think about how am I feeling about this, what's working for me about this, what isn't working for me. And so I'm going to invite you to practice self-focus. I'm going to talk next about the idea of both and thinking. I've referenced that already, that often in our dialogue, we go to it's either my way or your way. And we don't recognize that there may be multiple truths. So we want you to try on the idea of both and thinking. It could be, so in this room where you all are sitting, what I might ask is anybody cold in the room? Raise your hand if you're cold. Is anybody warm? Is everybody okay? The temperature is working for everybody? Yes, raise your hand if it's working for you. All right. Raise your hand, it's working for you? All right. So both and thinking would allow for the fact that if there's someone in the room who's cold, we would attend to them. Because they would have a different truth. We would give them a sweater or something to make sure that they also were attended to. That's just a little metaphor for this idea that there's more than one truth. And it's okay to be cold in a room where everybody else is comfortable. Y'all get the metaphor? Okay, the next thing I wanted to know is be aware of intent and impact. We start from the assumption that anyone in a leadership position is choosing to be a leader at some level out of caring for others. So we start from that assumption. And yet, as leaders, we make mistakes. We sometimes, our impact is different than our intent. So right now, as I'm talking to you, my intent is to connect with you in this virtual space. For some of you, that impact might not happen. That's my intent. And if it's not happening, we need to have a conversation. So intent and impact speaks to when there is a miss in a communication or in an action, instead of jumping to what did you do to me or what did I do to you, we can say the impact of what you did on me was this. Was that your intent? Or if I notice that I'm doing something that is having an impact different than my intent, I can say, I thought that I was asking, you all I was asking you to raise your hand so that we can contact. It had a different impact when you tell me what that is. So this intent impact becomes critical, especially as you start thinking through where are we different and what are our barriers. And then the last one that I wanted to share for this group, in closed session, we talk about confidentiality, but this is an open session. So we invite you to just be aware of speaking for yourself, and that's the self-focused guideline, and being aware of the way in which when we speak for others or when we talk about other people's business, we're not really cooperating with respect to cross-cultural dialogue. So those are the guidelines we would like for you to try on, and that Angie and I will be noticing, and they're meant to keep the process moving and to give you a strategy if we need you to talk about the process, which is that one about the difference in the process and the content. Any questions or comments on that? Oh, wait, there's one more that I didn't mention in this group. This is important. It's called, did you see the one that says step up and step back? In some context, some of us process information by talking and some by listening. And so sometimes the folks who tend to talk may step up a lot, and the folks who don't, they step back. We encourage you, if you're a step up person, to practice both, practice stepping back some and listening to others. And if you're a step back person, to practice asking for space and sharing your thoughts and feelings. And as facilitators, we will be noticing that as well. Okay? All right, any questions for clarity or any comments? All right, I want to just end by just, again, we've come out of a year that I don't know about you, but that's been the most stressful that I think I've ever experienced, and there's been a lot of stressful ones. But this one, so I want to applaud you all for continuing to do this business and to decide to keeping on and defining what will be happening in Rocky Mount post-COVID with respect to housing. I think that's admirable, and I just wanted you all to hold on to that as you get into the room. And I'm going to pass it to you, Angie. I just met Angie as we were planning this, and I feel so excited to be working with you. So I just want to let you all know. We do co-facilitation all the time, so it's really fun to be the new person to do that.
Thank you, Val. Likewise. Good afternoon, our esteemed Mayor Pro Tem and our illustrious City Council members, City Manager, and all constituents. It is truly a pleasure to be here this afternoon to co-facilitate with Dr. Val, someone who I met but feel like I've known for a lifetime. My role here in the room is really to be a supportive role to help make sure that the agenda and program flows smoothly, logistically, with solid transitions. There are a lot of wonderful topics that are going, excuse me, that are going to be addressed over the next day and a half, 2 days and a half. We want to make sure that everyone is heard. And as my co-facilitator, Dr. Val, shared, we really want to try on some new things to really open up the dialogue so that we can have a healthy conversation about the needs of the city of Rocky Mount. And part of why we're here is because the city of Asheville is doing some wonderful things that we came to see, and we're going to have a chance to do that on the tours later this afternoon. Well, for those who know me and who have been in the room with me before, I always like to open with a safety message. So the safety message for today is, while many of us have received at least one vaccine, several of us have received 2 vaccines. At the same time, the study data research shows that we still need to practice all of the COVID guidelines: 6 feet apart, which we've set your room for you today, to wear your mask, particularly when we're in close proximity of each other, and to either wash and or sanitize. And for our council members, we have hand sanitizer here, and for our guests in the back of the room, we also have sanitizer. We also have beverages besides water in the far back corner of the room. The restroom facilities, if you go out this room, turn left, follow those wonderful, comfortable looking rocking chairs. At the very end to the left, you will see the ladies and gentlemen facilities. The most important piece I like to talk about that sometimes we get so focused on our topic, we don't address. And that is in the event of an emergency. And we believe that we are all safe and here at this wonderful Grove Park Inn. And in the event of any type of emergency, Ken Hunter and I have already tag teamed in the room. We would evacuate the room. I would make sure that I'm helping to guide that process. Ken, you would follow. He would lead you out. You would turn right outside these doors. And as you go down the corridor to the right, you'll see a first set of sliding doors. You would exit those doors and follow the direction of the hotel staff. If we had could not exit in that manner because of a barricade of some sort, there is a location, Edison's, directly across the corridor, and Ken would lead you there. That would be our backup in the event of a situation where we had to be in the room, active shooter or what have you. The first thing we would want to do is try to get these doors closed and use what we have to be safe. In the event that we can shelter in place, that would be awesome. As you notice, this is back of the house, doors on either side. We could take those exits as well. And again, we do this to make sure that these things don't happen because we're so prepared, right? But I just want to make sure we're aware of that. In the event of some medical emergency, I would be the person to call 911. The hotel staff would also want to know, and Ken would be handling that. If it were I who needed care, Ken would be handling that, and we'd ask one of you to just jump in. And the thing about emergencies and things that are unplanned, we just know as humans to be instinctive and handle things. At the same time, we want to know that. The last piece that Dorothy and Kevin know that I always check for is around your feet, particularly under your tables. I noticed, Councilman, you have a bag there. If you wouldn't mind sliding that bag further to the back, the point of that is to just make sure that in a hurry to get out, no one would trip as well. And thank you for allowing me to use you as an example. When I saw that, I was like, oh, perfect. I have a really good example to share. So those are all the logistics we want to cover with you. In addition, you have been given information about the note-taking that Dr. Val and I are going to be doing. It really is to help this illustrious council, city manager, and her team to document the process. It is a pleasure for us to be here. If you need anything that we can help you with, we are more than happy to assist you with that as well. Again, welcome. It is truly an honor to be here and to help support this activity. And on behalf of my tag team, I'm calling us the dynamic duo, Val. So as your dynamic duo of co-facilitators, we will be speaking throughout the session. And with that said, Mayor Pro Tem, I return the lectern to you. Thank you.
Now, was Ken gonna?
He will later, a little later on. Thank you so much, City Manager. Thank you, Dr. Val, and thank you so much, Dr. Angie. Since I was the only one that raised my hand to be cold in here, I guess someone gonna share me their coat. So thank you so much for sharing. At this time, I would like to welcome Asheville City Manager Deborah Campbell and her staff, and thank them for their willingness to share their knowledge and experience in advancing housing opportunity for the citizens of Asheville. And at 3 o'clock, taking us on a tour of selected Asheville projects. At this time, we will ask Dr. Campbell and her staff to come forth and present to us. No one has given me a coat yet. Ruben said he would turn the heat up.
Could you see the message in the chat? I'm just saying this while we're waiting. Did you see I put the message in the chat to say, I was thinking we need to get you a coat.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Dr. Campbell.
Hello. How are you all doing? I'm sure hopefully you have heard this a couple of times. Welcome to Asheville. I know that there are a number of great cities in North Carolina that you could have chosen, but you chose Asheville, and we really appreciate you all being here. My name is Deborah Campbell. Evidently, you heard some preliminary introductions. I've only been in. Can you all hear me okay with the mask on, or do I need to take it off? Take it off. I've been here for going into my third year. Came here in December of 2018. I originally worked in Charlotte for about 32 years. 4 of those years was as an assistant city manager, and now I'm fortunate enough to serve in the role as a city manager. So I bring you greetings from our historical all-female elected body, from our mayor, Esther Meinheimer, as well as our vice mayor, Shanika Smith, and 5 other wonderful, strong women. So I was, as I was thinking about, what should I talk about? The thing about Asheville is, and I'm sure it's probably common to Rocky Mount as well, is that we are a small community with really, really big ideas and a small budget. And so trying to connect those 2 things together, of certainly not tapping down the enthusiasm, the vision that we have for our community and what we want to become, trying to manage those expectations with the realities of the resources that we have to deal with. But I can say, though, that we've done a pretty good job, and a lot of that was done prior to me coming here with Gary Jackson as a former city manager of Asheville, of trying to bring those things closer together in terms of you'll be hearing from Nikki Reed and Paul D'Angelo about our affordable housing initiative, what we are doing around equity and inclusion, even having an office of equity inclusion, although we've lost some staff in that department just recently, but just again, having council be committed to that. We are growing and expanding our transit system. We had a plan approved, and we are hopefully we'll be moving to this second year of implementation of that plan through the budget process this year. As it relates to sustainability and environmental initiatives, we are making a lot of progress as we renovate our buildings. We are not bringing them to gold standard, but we're getting close with those initiatives. And so what I thought I'd do, rather than me kind of standing up and lecturing you, was to see if you all have any questions about the community. I know that you may have some interest in a bold move that the City Council made in July of 2020, which was to adopt a resolution related to reparations. So prepared to answer any of those questions and give you an update on where we are in that process. So I'll stop there. Again, welcome. Hope you have an informative and enjoyable time in Asheville. And take out your credit card, spend a little money. We need all the tax dollars we can generate. So thank you. Any questions? Anything? Yes, sir.
Good morning. Do I use the? Thank you for hosting us. Blackmore City Council representative.
Mr. Blackmore.
Can you give us some backdrop about the events that led up to your focus on housing, affordable housing? And then can you, after you finish that, can you talk about specific, thank you.
Oh, there they are.
Then can you discuss what the conversation was around reparations, what happened, and where is it now?
And I'm sure Paul and Nikki will be talking to you about kind of our affordable housing initiative. What I will just say is that I think it was, and they will correct me if I'm wrong, it was just the numbers. The difference in what our need is and what our supply is. And there was a huge disconnect between supply and demand. So it was truly need-based. We looked at a number of actual things that could be done to provide us with the opportunity to leverage, again, limited resources. The community had such an interest in this issue that a bond was passed for us, I believe it was 25 million, and for affordable housing. But I don't think it's just resources, public resources that are needed. We rely a lot on partnerships. That is the private sector helping us to deliver these units. So a lot of the funding that we have is leveraged with private sector investments, and they'll go through a number of our programs and policies that we, I guess I should say, our elected officials have entrusted us to implement. Coming from a larger community like Charlotte and having, numbers that are kind of mind-blowing in terms of the need for affordable housing, I was really pleasantly pleased and quite frankly surprised when I came to Asheville and saw the number of tools that this community had already adopted and were in play. That in Charlotte, when 2018, 17, we were trying to create in Charlotte, and Asheville had already taken some fairly aggressive steps to develop those. The reparations. I can be totally straightforward with you guys, right?
Appreciate it.
Okay. I think our concern about reparations came about as a result of a moment in time where we seized the moment, or our elected officials seized the moment of the social unrest with Mr. Floyd's murder. And the number, Breonna Taylor, there was a number of events that had occurred. And if there was ever a moment in time where we could get unanimous approval of an initiative like this that focused on social injustice, social inequity, racial inequity, it was this moment. And we had an elected official who was bold enough and determined enough, one of our Black representatives who said, this is the moment in time. And we seized it. And now that we have seized that moment, now we got to do something with it. And that's what we're in the process of doing now. Because what we don't want reparations to be is a moment. We want it to be a movement. And I think that's where we are headed. We will be launching what we're calling this first phase of this process of truth telling. That is, we're going to look at our past, we're going to look at our present, and we're going to look at our future. And that's going to be a speaker series. We're going to have local people, and we're going to have national speakers that are going to come and talk to, well, maybe come. I don't know what's going to happen in a couple of months with COVID, but somehow we're going to have them interact with our community. So that will be kind of the foundational things. It is an opportunity for us to really understand, if we talk about reparations, which is repairing damage, when do we start in terms of assessing the damage? So having that conversation around past in particular will help us determine, do we want to start with 400 years? I doubt it. At a local level and the resources that will be needed, do we want to do reconstruction? Do we want to do urban renewal? So that's the conversation that we will be having. The second phase is to create a commission. And that commission will be charged with coming up with short, medium, and long-term recommendations. So we'll be supporting the work of that commission. The majority of the membership will come from people in the community. And in particular, once we get that foundational phase from a geographical perspective of where the most damage has been done in our community, that's where the majority of the people will come from in terms of the representation on the commission. And then we will have what we're calling content experts, because we think from a damage perspective, we'll be looking at some specific focus areas like entrepreneurship, housing, education, public health. So we will have content experts from those particular areas. They will be working, again, to deliver us some strategies related to short-term things that we can do, medium and long-term things that we will do. This process should take about 18 to 24 months, and we're committed. Council is committed. In fact, our council retreat was last week, and reparations definitely was on their top list of priorities going forward into this next both budget cycle as well as the fiscal year. And we know that this is bold, that it is, other than Evanston, Illinois, and Providence, Rhode Island, on a local level, it just hasn't been done. But that's how Asheville is. We are a proud little community with big dreams. We try to do things big, but I hope that we do them responsibly. And that's what we're going to try to do, particularly with this reparations effort, and what we try to do with everything that we do. And I'm sure that sometimes our community gets really resistant and vocal about the time that it takes, and that sometimes we have to do things incrementally, but again, with the goal of doing it responsibly. And that's where hopefully you will see with our housing initiatives, we're committed to being responsible stewards of our resources, and responsible with the lives of our residents in our community, particularly around affordable housing. We have to get that right. Thank you for the question. Anything else? Okay. Yes.
Dr. Angie. Okay, can you all hear me now? Okay, my name is Gloria Davis, and I am from Rocky Mount. I'm on various commissions and just active. Anyways, I want to, you spoke in the beginning about you had created an Office of Equity and Inclusion. Is that correct? Okay, now, is this just for housing, or are you including the other things that need to be addressed, like jobs and mental health and food and all this? Is this
Office of Equity and Inclusion?
I'm sorry?
You said the Office of Equity and Inclusion, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Is this just for housing, or is this for, it's going to include jobs and everything? What does it include?
Okay, all right. So our Office of Equity and Inclusion originally was structured to be more internally focused. We just thought, and again, the office was formed before I got here, but I think the historical thinking was, in order for us to promote equity and inclusion throughout the community and private sector and all of our other partners, we have to get our own house in order first. And so a lot of what we have been doing for the past, I'd say 3 years, I think the office was formed in maybe in 2017, I believe. And then we staffed up, has 4 positions. We took a really deep dive in all of our operations, from public works to community and economic development to policing to a number of initiatives that we have underway. We are creating opportunities to use what we call, an equity lens. All of our services that we deliver, we look at it through a lens of equity and fairness. Who's benefiting and who's being adversely impacted, and how do we mitigate that impact going forward? So what does that include? That includes 4 positions, the people who help the organization understand the concept of, first and foremost, what does equity mean? What does it mean to be inclusive? But council made a conscious decision to focus on race. And so a lot of the lens that we are looking at is through a racial lens. But yes, we will be evolving it to look at all aspects of our organization, including equity from an economic perspective, from a disability perspective, from a gender perspective. We'll be moving into equity encompassing all of those areas. So I would say, I guess, to sum up, that when we think of equity and inclusion, we think of, again, our entire organization, from housing to all the services that we deliver. We work in partnership, though, with a lot of other community nonprofits and with the private sector, encourage and even convene meetings to discuss equity. In particular, a real strong partner of ours right now is the school system, and helping with the educational gap or opportunity gap, where our Black kids, Black and brown kids in Asheville, there is a huge gap in terms of test scores between Black and brown kids and white kids. And we are partnering with the school system to address, we hope, some of those issues and concerns. I hope I've responded to your question. If not, give me another opportunity and I'll do my best.
No, I appreciate that because.
And I'm sorry, I'm gonna step away just a little bit because
no problem.
that light.
Oh, the light. No, I appreciate that because all things work together. And that's what I wanted to know, because we do have housing issues because of other things, lack of jobs and so forth and so on, and other things that we have going on. So I wanted to know, you answered the question and I appreciate it. I'm satisfied with your answer. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes. I would like to know, in terms of redevelopment of your downtown, our former city manager, Charles Penny, always talked about how Asheville bounced back from developing or redeveloping their downtown. And I want to know what is the progress of that? How is it going? Is it sustainable? And minority ownership in your downtown. And the second thing I want to ask about, as I was reading and doing a little research about Asheville, how gentrification had impacted African American communities, and moving forward, what is the council policies, or what is the council take on gentrification moving forward?
Sure. So we'll start with downtown first. My background, for those of you who don't know, for the majority of my career, I was in urban planning. I was a planner. And in fact, for 10 years, 2004 to 2014, I was the planning director for the city of Charlotte. So I understand the role of a downtown. Literally, it is the heart of most cities. And I think Asheville understood that as well. It went through a period of transition where, you know, like most other cities, where suburbanization, you know, big box development just sucked the life out of downtowns. There was a renewed interest and vigor about how do we restore, how do we bring people back into downtown? And so the city started obviously investing and leveraging and doing public-private partnerships, just like most other communities across the country did. But I think what Asheville did that may or may not be unique to some other communities is focused on local. You know, not trying to go after the big chains and all that, but focused on truly distinguishing its downtown from other communities and with the local flavor. And I think that's what most of us want. We want to come to a community and understand the community. We don't want it to be, you know, there's a cartoon that usually when I'm making a presentation, it says something, and I'm probably not going to get it all exactly right, but it's like, hey, this city is, whoa, just like the last city I just left. And that's what we didn't want and don't want for Asheville. We want Asheville to be very, very unique. In terms of minority business and entrepreneurship, we are woefully lagging from that perspective. We are working on that, but we have a long way to go. And in fact, the majority of the discussion around reparations really has been about entrepreneurship and economic development, and how, particularly in Asheville, if you talk to any of the natives, you will get a conversation about urban renewal and what it did to impact minority communities, the removal, the relocation, just the impact that it had, not just on an economic perspective or from an economic perspective, but from a social perspective. Churches, their membership got displaced all over the place. So we've got a lot of work to do in that regard. Your next question was about?
Moving forward, I guess, with policies to address
Gentrification. So, Paul
Would you
and
repeat the question? Angie, could you repeat the question? I couldn't hear her.
Sure. I think the question was, what types of policies or programs do we have moving forward to mitigate the impact of gentrification? Okay. So,
Gentrification, okay. Mhm.
okay. So first and foremost, we are starting out with a policy of mixed income, right? So particularly if it is something that the city is investing in, a development that the city is investing in, our highest priority is that there be a mixture of incomes. We even, I think it was in 19, council adopted a policy that we were going to focus on, 60% of the area median income, that you get more if you have more of those kinds of units, because that's where our need is, 60% AMI and below. The private sector can generally deliver 80% without a whole lot of help from the public sector. We want to do that. We also want to work with, so starting out with the concept of mixed income communities. We also, with, I guess with a lot of the conversations around reparations, we're looking at the city's inventory from a real estate perspective to see if we can partner and work with developers that will deliver into some of these communities, either housing or retail or whatever, that are Black owned and operated into communities that haven't integrated as well. We are looking at long-term, particularly if we're working with people from a home ownership perspective, whether we've done this or not, but first right of refusal, if we can buy that affordable unit back first, that would be the first offer. That helps us keep that unit affordable. So a number of those things, but again, with the affordable housing, I definitely don't want to take away what Nikki and Paul will be able to share with you. The biggest challenge right now from a social perspective that Asheville has is around, and I hope I use the correct word, we're moving away from homelessness to houselessness. That is our biggest issue. And if you have driven our community, you probably see tents and you probably see panhandlers and you probably see a lot of things that I would suggest to you that we're not ashamed of. And this may be taken in a negative way. How can a city manager say, you're not ashamed of it? Because I think that it is a national issue that we have got to address. And that if you are hiding that issue in your communities intentionally, shame on you. Out of sight, out of mind. Not that I'm proud that we have tents. That is not our goal. Our goal is to house anybody who wants to be housed. But it is a tough nut to crack without resources. And I don't mean just money. I mean facilities and people who are trained to help people transition from PTSD and drug addiction to case manage those people through some very, very difficult, sometimes years, to be able to get to a point where they literally want to be housed. What you won't see in our community is you won't see families that are homeless. You generally are going to see individuals for a variety of reasons. But yeah, that is a huge problem, challenge for our community. But we are working at it from the perspective of almost everything that we do. We always say it's a community issue. It's not just local government's issue. Because I think community building is a contact sport, and everybody, it's all hands on deck. So that means private sector, nonprofits, religious institutions, everybody has to be on board, engaged, and involved. And yes, local government has its place. It has its role. I'm not abdicating that, but I'm not also accepting the full responsibility for all of the social and economic ills of our community. Because if we truly want to build community, everybody's got to be in. And I think we're headed that way with the city. In fact, I just got out of a conversation with the county manager, and we were talking about 911 consolidations, low barrier shelters, because we know that our community has told us they don't have the tolerance for you to point fingers that, no, it's the county's responsibility and that lies with the state and that's the city's. They're tired of that. And so the best way that we can be responsive is to work together, whether we like it or not. But luckily, the county manager and I like each other, that we are working together to try to problem solve, not only at the local level, but at the state and federal as well. It takes us all. It takes the entire community. Any other questions?
We'll take this one last question.
Okay. Okay.
I don't even know if Asheville has recognized the one tool that you have captured and able to work with that a lot of other communities are afraid to even recognize that it's an issue, and that's the come to Jesus meeting. I don't know if you know you're having them, but it sounds like to me that you are having them with great success, because these issues take a lot of things to get them, to even launch them off the starting pad. But the first thing they must have is total honesty. And that's the thing that we need to know how to come to the table with. Because if I can't be honest with my neighbor about what my intent is to get his trust so that we can move forward, because I got to be open and honest about what I'm doing so I can get his support, we'll never make it. And from just listening to you, I mean, I believe now, more than I have ever believed, that if you put a team together with people with your kind of faith and with that recognition of what it really takes, I know it can be done. And I really know it can be done. And I just hope we can go back with that. You know, if we can recognize that, open honesty, because it don't have to be about one little group. It's supposed to be one big group, the city. And if we are about trying to move our city, man, I hope we need you to come to our city and give us some more talk. That's the best talk I've heard. That's the best pep talk, the best tool. Do you have a question? Yeah, my question is, how long and what process did you use to start your planning and to the point that you could actually make assignments to start work? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Can I ask a question, sir, about the question? Do you mean their plan for housing or their plans for the reparations piece? I just didn't get what the.
No, the question is actually, you got to go out and find land. You got to go out. There's the A, B, and C to get anything for housing or anything done, right?
That's correct.
And I wanted to, I mean, you can't just start building a house tomorrow. And what I'm saying is, how did you start your process to go out and do this?
Sure. So let me start with housing, for example. We're not the direct deliverer of housing units. We fund housing units. We don't build them. Okay. So we partner with the private sector. So they determine where they want to do a development, and we kind of nudge them, particularly when we own the property and we can use the property as leverage. So they come to the site that we have chosen to partner and to deliver the units. What I will say is that if COVID did not teach us anything, it taught us that collaboration, being flexible and nimble, will be the way that cities are managed going forward. There is no way that this community could have survived if the county, the state, the city, the schools, we all stayed in our lanes and we said, we don't do that. We don't deliver that service. I don't have time to let you all have some of our firemen. I don't have time for you all to use the Harris Center where we have our concerts, and it's a kind of our convention center, to use that to house the homeless. We don't put no homeless people in our Harris Center. We did. And then we moved them into hotels. But the first place we had, the stop, was at the Harris Center. So we had to get, and I think this is local government, and it's scary. Sometimes we just got to get out of our lanes. We got to get out of our own way and be a lot more thoughtful and innovative. And again, the key to everything that we've done is through partnerships. But you've got to have willing partners. So that means that you may have to work on developing relationships. And lastly, I will say, the gentleman used a word, trust. Our elected officials last week at their retreat, for one whole day, that's what they talked about. How do we, because it's a new council, all women, they talked about how do we develop working agreements to be able to work with each other. And when we aren't working so well together, how do we resolve our issues? So I would leave you with this. Again, thank you for choosing Asheville. We don't have any claim to fame other than Asheville's weird. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoy yourself. And the real stars are these folks over here. So thank you all and enjoy your time. And spend money, okay?
Is this a good time for a 5-minute stretch? What do you think, Angie?
Yes, we're going to take the 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah.